In this part, we are going to see the notable scholars. The contribution of many scholars are important in the development of historiography. Let us have a look at the contribution of the few notable scholars. So children, these scholars came up with their different ideas, with their different thought processes and their different ideologies, which contributed a lot in historiography. So we are going to just take a look of what these scholars have to say about historiography or about history. René Descartes was the foremost among scholars who insisted on verifying the reliability of historical documents by critically examining them. So he was the leading person, you can say, who said or who stressed more on verifying the reliability of historical documents by critically analyzing them. So he said that the historical documents can be relied upon only after they are critically examined. So the critical examination of the historical documents by verifying them, or rather checking their reality, how much they are reliable, how much truth is there in that, or how much, you can say, how much correctness is there in that, was very, very important. Among the rules given by him in his book Discourse on the Method, the following is supposed to have a great impact on the scientific method of research. So he had written a book, Discourse on the Method, and in that book whatever he has mentioned that we are going to see, and that had created an impact on the scientific method of research. He said never to accept anything for true till all grounds of doubts are cleared or are excluded. So he said that we should not consider anything to be true or anything to be perfect or very real, very correct, unless and until all the grounds of doubt are excluded. So even if we have a slightest doubt, that should be verified, that should be removed, that should be rather you can say that answered satisfactorily, and then only we can jump onto the conclusion that whatever our findings are, whatever the findings of the historians are very correct. So he says that we should not, or rather the findings should not be considered to be should never be accepted till all the grounds of truth or all the grounds of doubts are excluded. The next notable scholar we are going to talk about is Voltaire. He was born in 1694 and he died in 1778. Voltaire's original name was Francois Marie Arouet. He was French. He opined that along with objective truth and chronology of historical events, considering social traditions, trade, economy, agriculture, etc., was also equally important in historiography. It gave rise to the thought that understanding all aspects of human life is important for history writing. Thus, it is said that Voltaire was the founder of modern historiography. Children, Voltaire, he was of the opinion that along with the objective truth, like whatever the objective was, and then the findings of the relevant evidences to be true, and the chronology is the lineage we have seen of historical events. He says other than that there should be these other factors should also be considered because they contribute a lot. And what are those factors which should be included according to him is social traditions, trade, economy, agriculture, etc. was equally important in historiography. And because of this concept of including all these concepts into historiography, it gave rise to a thought that understanding all aspects of human life is important for history writing. So because history is more about writing about the human life, so these are the things he felt, like the agriculture, the social traditions, or the economy of that particular place. So these things have an impact on the human life. So he thought that all these aspects of human life is very important for history writing. Therefore, it is said, since this was a very modern, very new concept, which was quite different from the earlier concept, that is why it is said that Voltaire was the founder of the modern historiography. The next is George William Friedrich Hegel. He was born in 1770 and he died in 1831. Hegel was a German philosopher. He insisted that the historical reality should be presented in a logical manner. To him, the timeline of historical events was indicative of progress. He also thought that the presentation of history is bound to change over time as new evidences would come forth. With Hegel's philosophy, many scholars were convinced that historical methods were not of lesser quality, though they differ from scientific methods. The collection of his lectures and articles is published in a book entitled Encyclopedia of Philosophical Sciences. His book Reasons in History is well known. So children, Hegel was a German philosopher and he insisted that historical reality should be presented in a logical manner. There should be a logic in representing or in presenting the historical reality. For him, he felt that timeline of historical events was the indicative of progress. So anything, if we consider, as and when the time passes, there is a lot of more findings, or you can say there is a lot of more development into that particular thing, and therefore he felt that timeline of historical events was indicative of progress. So when we see the timeline, what happened in the say 16th century, then after in the 17th century, then in the 18th century, then in the 19th century, in the 20th century, we will always find that there has been a progress. So that progress is indicated in the timeline. So he gave a lot of importance to timeline because he felt that timeline was the indicative of progress in the historical events. He also thought that the presentation of history is bound to change over time as new evidence would come forth. Very correct. There can be new evidences coming forth, coming to our knowledge even after so many years. So he felt that even after years there might be new findings which are relating to the past. So therefore history is bound to keep on changing. As with the as in the coming time also we might get new evidences which may belong to the very ancient history. With Hegel's philosophy, many scholars were convinced that historical methods were not of lesser quality, though they differ from the scientific methods. Now, since these were the historical methods were very different from the scientific methods, which couldn't be proved in the laboratory, which were not true at any given time or any at, like you can say, universal, like it can be true at any part of the world. So they were considered to be having the lesser importance. But because of this Hegel's philosophy, many of the scholars were convinced that historical methods were not of lesser quality, although they were different from the scientific methods. The collection of his lectures and articles is published in a book entitled Encyclopedia of Philosophical Sciences, and his book Reason in History is a very well-known book. The next notable scholar is Leopold von Ranke, who was born in 1795 and he died in 1886. Historiography of the 19th century was greatly influenced by the thoughts of Leopold von Ranke of Berlin University. He spoke about the critical method of historical research. He put emphasis on the utmost importance of information gathering through original documents. He also stated that all types of documents associated with the historical event need to be examined with greatest care. He believed that with this method it was possible to reach the historical truth. He criticized imaginative narration of history. Collection of his articles is published in 2 books entitled The Theory and Practice of History and The Secret of World History. So children, we can see that Leopold von Ranke, he believed or he emphasized, he stressed more on the utmost importance of information gathered through the original documents. He believed that, or he stressed more on the importance of gathering the information through the original documents. He also stated that all types of documents associated with a historical event need to be examined with greatest care. He also felt that these documents need to be examined with greatest care. He believed that with this method it was possible to reach to the historical truth. So if the documents are original, and or if rather the information is gathered through the original document, he felt that it was possible to reach the historical truth. He also criticized, he was totally against the imaginative narration of history. Imaginative narration means we imagine something and then we write, which may or may not be truth. So that he was totally against the imaginative writing or imaginative narration of history. His articles were published in 2 books, and the names of the books were The Theory and Practice of History, and the other was The Secret of World History. Karl Marx. Karl Marx is a very well known amongst these notable scholars. He was born in 1818 and he died in 1883. In the later half of the 19th century, a new school of thought arose, keeping in view the new thesis formulated by Karl Marx. According to Karl Marx, history was not about abstract ideas. Abstract ideas is some ideas, or very weird ideas, you can say, very different ideas. It was about living people. So human relations are shaped by the fundamental needs of the people and the ownership as well as the nature of prevalent means of production to meet those needs. So what he believed was that history was not about something, some ideas or something very different, but it was about the humans, the living people. Therefore, he felt that human relations are shaped by the fundamental needs. Now, their relations are on the basis of the fundamental needs of the people, the basic needs of the people, and the ownership, whatever they own, as well as the nature of prevalent means of production. So, what were the prevalent means of production? The things which are required for the production, and that those were needed for the to meet those needs. The accessibility of these means of different strata of the society may not be equal. So he felt that the accessibility, that is the capacity to reach or to meet these needs, is different for different strata, that is the different sections of the society, that may not be equal, so it may be different. So this inequality causes a division of the society into classes. So because of this, because of the we can say capacity, or because of the limitations to reach these needs of the society or needs of production, there is a division in the class. Now the ability to reach these means are different for different classes of the people, so it is not equal, and because of this inequality it causes a division in the society into classes, leading to class struggle. So because of the inequality there is a division in the society and it leads to the classes, and these classes lead to the class struggle. According to Marx, human history is the history of class struggle, as the class that owns the means of production economically exploits the rest of the classes. So he feels that according to him, the class that owns the means of production, so the people who own that class, that is the so-called rich class, which owns the means of production economically, means monetarily, in terms of money, exploits the rest of the classes. Exploits means full use of and derives benefit from the other classes. This class, which is so called the rich class, or rather the class which owns the means of production, economically exploits the rest of the classes. Das Kapital, it is a treatise. Treatise means a work dealing formally and systematically with a subject, is written by him in the most referred book all over the world. So Das Kapital is the book which is most referred book all over the world. We can see, children, this was a very different concept given by Karl Marx, and therefore Karl Marx is a very well known amongst these notable scholars. Annals School. On the onset of the 20th century, a new school of historiography arose in France, which is known as Annals School. Onset is at the beginning of the 20th century. A new school of historiography came up in France, and it was known as the Annals School. Annals School gave a new direction of history writing. It is recognized now that history is not only about the political events, kings, great leaders, and accordingly politics, diplomacy, and wars, but also about the climate, local people, agriculture, trade, technology, means of communication, social divisions, and their collective psychology, etc. In the historical times, the Annals School was started by the French historians. So children, here the concept we can see has been broadened by the Annals School. Earlier it was only confined that history means it is definitely going to speak about the political events, or about the kings, about the great leaders, or about politics and diplomacies, or about the wars. But now this was a broader concept, and according to the Annals School, the climate, the local people, agriculture, trade, and their collective psychology. So all these things individually and collectively, and many more such topics which are closely associated with the human life, were also included in the history. And this Annals School was started by the French historians. Feminist historiography. Feminist historiography, as the name suggests, means the restructuring of the history from the perspective of women. The writings of Simone de Beauvoir helped in establishing the fundamentals of feminism. She was French. The feminist historiography emphasized not only on the inclusion of women in history, but also on the rethinking of the male dominated perspective of history. It drove historical research to focus in depth on various aspects of humans' life, such as their employment, their role in trade union, institutions working for their cause, their family life, etc. In the historical writings after 1990, women were portrayed as an independent social class. So children, in the very earlier times, we can see there was a lot of contribution of the female historians. In the meantime, in the mid era, there was very less attention was given to the females as far as their life is concerned, and as also the historians are concerned. So in the meantime, the writings of Simone de Beauvoir helped in establishing the fundamentals of feminism. So Simone de Beauvoir, she was a French historian, and because of her writings, the fundamentals of feminism were established. Now feminist historiography, what does it stress on? What does it include? It includes not only on the inclusion of women in history. It definitely dealt with the inclusion of women in history, but it also emphasized, or it also stressed on rethinking the male dominated perspective of history. History was more prominently dominated by the male historians, and so that was rethought, and the male dominance was rethought upon, and it drove historical research to focus. It made the historical research to focus in depth on the various aspects of women's life, like their employment, their role in trade union, then the institutions working for their cause, their family life, and so many other issues related to the women. In the historical writings after 1990, women were portrayed, women were shown as an independent social class. Michael Foucault, he was born in 1926 and he died in 1984. He was a French historian of the 20th century. Michael Foucault brought forth a new concept in historiography. He, in his book Archaeology of Knowledge, argued that the prevailing practice of arranging historical events in a chronological order is not right. He drew attention to the fact that archaeology does not strive to reach the ultimate historical truth but attempts to explain various transitions in the past. Foucault felt that explaining the transition in history is more important. He called this method the archaeology of knowledge. So children, Michael Foucault, he was the historian, French historian of the 19th century, and his concept in historiography that he brought forth, or what he brought in, was through his book Archaeology of Knowledge, and in that he has said that the prevailing practice, what the practice was, current practice was that time of arranging historical events in a chronological order, in a correct order, was not correct. He felt that the archaeology does not strive to reach the ultimate historical truth. So if we arrange only the events in a chronological order, the historical truth cannot be achieved. So instead he felt that it attempts only to the various, it shows only how the transition was or how the changes were from the past to the current. So Foucault felt that explaining the transition in history was more important. He felt that how the transitions took place, showing that what changes came up, that showing that was more important. So he called this method as the archaeology of knowledge. Foucault subjected the so far unacknowledged areas by historians such as psychological disorders, science of medicine, prison administration, etc. to historical analysis. So in the annals school we saw that many more subjects were added. Also in the feminist historiography also we saw that the importance was given to the feminine historians also. But in this we still have a still broader concept wherein a different concept or a different subject was brought in by Michael Foucault, and he says that psychological disorders, science of medicine, prison administration, etc. also should be included into historical analysis. Thus we can see that the scope of historiography kept continuously expanding bigger and bigger. Writing of histories of various subjects like literature, architecture, sculpture, drawing and painting, music, dance, drama, films and television, etc. came into practice. So we can say, we can see that in the past, in the ancient history, the history was only confined to the kings, the wars, or the great people, but gradually it kept on increasing, and in the transition we can see the latest or shown in, or what is discussed in this chapter is that it's changed so much, it kept on adding so much, and it kept on expanding, that subjects like literature, architecture, sculpture, drawing and painting, music, dance, drama, films and television, and so many more topics came into practice. So children, that's all we have in historiography, development in the West, and that is how the development took place in the Western countries. In the next chapter you will see historiography development in the India or Indian tradition, how it developed or what was the influence. So I hope you have understood and the things are very clear to you. Thank you so much.